Welcome to the second and final episode of our mini-series in northwest China, discovering Gansu Province's Tian Shui. If you're watching the first episode, you'll know that days 1 and 2 of our trip were action-packed, as we dived right into Tian Shui's famous Shehuo, or Earth and Fire Festival. Having barely recovered from all the excitement, we visited Maiji Shan, Tian Shui's prime tourist attraction, better known as Haystack Mountain. We even managed to squeeze in some clay sculpting, but the fun isn't over just yet.
So we did Maiji Shan yesterday, and we're going to go to Shuiliangdong today, the rock caves. There's plenty of these type of rock cave formations in and around Tian Shui. The place we're going to today is slightly further away. You can get coaches and buses there, but we've hired ourselves a little private minibus, like anybody can do. See you guys there.
We're here in Tian Shui for 4 days, which I think is a perfect amount of time to discover most of what this place has to offer. On top of that, it gives you the freedom to explore slightly further afield. The trip from Tian Shui to Wushan takes around 2 hours, but it'll feel like a lot less. That's due in most part to the incredible scenery you see along the road. You don't need to be a geologist to appreciate the beauty of the landscape around here.
So we're on our way to Shuiliangdong, the water curtain cave, and the great thing is, in the first month of the lunar calendar, from the 1st to the 15th day, everywhere around you'll find the Shehuo, the Earth Fire Festival, in all the towns, in the small villages, all around the greater area of Tian Shui, as you can see. Really livens up the journey. So Wushan, their Earth Fire Festival, has slight different tendencies. They have all of these red sort of scarves hanging around all over the place. I'm not sure what they're really about, so let's go and ask this lady. 这个是干什么用的？这个就是给这个扭秧歌的这些人，给身上绑的那个，绑给你示范一下，抽个旗给你绑的，这是绑了，然后就有个喜气。 所有的人可以拿这个吗？可以啊。So basically you just have one of these and then, I don't know, you just dance around to the music, you run around, you enjoy the festivities, and you have your souvenir from Wushan. Wushan Earth Fire Festival souvenir. Awesome.
Talk about luck. 2 Shehuo festivals in the space of 3 days. Here in Wushan, the preparations and many of the activities are very similar to the festivities in Tian Shui. You'll again be able to recognize many of the main protagonists from Chinese history, culture and legend. The lions, dragons and monkey kings, as well as characters from Chinese opera. However, we did manage to chance upon something else which was new, in the shape of the Wushan spinning drum dance. Using drums made of lambskin, these guys take part in an animated and choreographed dance that gets more frantic as it goes along. Essentially, the spirit of the dance is to show off the masculinity of the northwestern men. The Wushan equivalent of peacocks strutting their stuff. In this instance, however, they adhere strictly to the instructions of the beatmaster, who is dressed differently and sets the tempo. From Wushan onto Shuiliangdong, literally meaning water curtain caves. The journey takes around an hour, and this extraordinary area is all the better preserved for being relatively inaccessible. Not that you should be deterred. It's not that hard to find. It's just that the roads will definitely test your car's suspension. But good things come to those who wait. The site is situated 17 kilometers from the town of Luomen, and it's like visiting a dreamlike vision of China. Eroding sandstone domes rise above lush canyon walls. Taoist and Buddhist temples lie hidden among the cliffs, where time doesn't seem to move. Just as a side note, if you're trying to make your own way there without a guide, do check that access to the caves is possible. Making it to the water curtain grottos is dependent on the weather, and you won't be able to use the riverbed there if it's been wet recently, although this is not that likely. The building of the water curtain cave complex was started in the 16 Kingdoms period of the Jin dynasty, way back in 265 AD. The construction continued during several dynasties that followed. It gets its moniker from the rain which pours down from the top of the mountain and forms a cascade like a curtain of water during the rainy season. Explore around the area and you might be lucky enough to come across a Taoist temple, still in use despite being up in the heart of the caves. The main site in this area for years was the La Shao Temple, also known as Da Fo Ya. It was built in 304 AD. It doesn't exist anymore. This is where the temple used to stand. And don't worry, you can still see the incredible 31-meter high statue of Sakyamuni on the mountain cliff, sat cross-legged upon a throne surrounded by wild animals, including lions, deers, and elephants.
Well, it's taken us around 3 hours to drive down here, and I really think sometimes getting off the beaten track can have its rewards. Hopefully, as you can see behind. Now, don't know if it's doing it justice, but I feel like a tiny ant compared to these huge rock carvings behind me. And the funny thing is that all around in this whole area, you'll feel like that, with steep rocks everywhere, making you feel completely insignificant in the whole of nature. Unbelievable.
The statue of Sakyamuni, the original Buddha, is a rare design of the Hayanaya school of Buddhism. What I'd like to know, though, is how on earth did anyone manage to carve that? Much like Meiji Shan, which we saw in the last episode, it defies belief that a statue could be carved so intricately, so high up in the air, especially without the use of modern technology and machinery. Great thing about this area is that everything is elevated, so you get fantastic vantage points to take in the sculpture and the grottos. As an aside, all buses and trains, except for the express services, running between Tianshui and Lanzhou, stop at Wushan. That said, it is a relatively long and tiring trip due to the rough roads, so it might be worth staying overnight at one of the hotels in Wushan, or even closer, at the Luomen Hotel in Luomen.
So rather depressingly, it's our final day in Tianshui. So we're going to try and cram in as much as is physically possible, which is why we've come here to the local arts museum of Tianshui. It's right in the city centre, built a long time ago. Let's go and have a look.
The Tianshui Local Arts Museum was originally built in the mid-16th century, during the Ming Dynasty, as a private residence for a government official. It covers 2,700 square meters and contains 42 houses in 9 quadrangular dwellings. It's said that the owner of this house was high up in the government, and both he and his father were well-respected government officials. Take a stroll around, and you'll be hard-pressed to dispute the fact that this family was wealthy. It's almost like a mini housing complex, with so many different sections and courtyards. Nanjize, which is the name it is given in Chinese, is a typical Ming-style property, and it's remarkably well preserved. So if you want to see some traditional 16th century architecture and artifacts around Tianshui, then look no further. More of a well-preserved home than an actual museum, it's perfect for a good snoop around someone's house without getting in any trouble.
So I've heard an interesting story about this room. This is where around 400 years ago the rich people would have their daughters secluded when they were engaged to be married, and basically they would just lock the door over there and they wouldn't be allowed down until the day of their marriage. Can you believe that? And the time range would go from 3 months, not too bad, all the way to 3 years, which is a pretty long time if we're going to be honest. Not much else to do around here, is there?
Incidentally, the girls were locked up to preserve their purity. But if walking around looking at buildings isn't really your thing, or you just fancy something a little different, then every day in the afternoon there's a local shadow puppet show. And even when the crowds aren't so large, he still goes about his work with aplomb and gusto. Just to clarify, shadow puppetry is an ancient form of storytelling and entertainment, using solid, often articulated figures in front of an illuminated backdrop to create the illusion of moving images. It originated during the Han Dynasty after one of the concubines of Emperor Wu died. The emperor was devastated, and he summoned his court officials to bring his favourite back to life. This is what they came up with.
So on a beautiful day like today, you really should go and check out one of the must-see sites in Tianshui. That is the Fuxi Temple. Now, Fuxi is a Chinese legend. He was said to have been born in Tianshui over 7,000 years ago and is accredited with bringing fishing, hunting and animal husbandry to Chinese civilization. Let's go and check out his temple.
伏羲呢，他是咱中华民族的一位原始氏族部落首领，生活的时间呢，在距今7000年左右。他也是中国文化最早的缔造者。咱说到的先天八卦就是由他所创化的。此外，伏羲时代还出现了中国文字最早的雏形，中国古代的礼仪制度，比方说这种婚庆礼仪制度，也是从伏羲时代开始的。他也制造了中国古代最早的乐器。另外呢，我们也知道。中华民族经常说自己是龙的子孙、龙的传人，伏羲氏族就是中华民族龙图腾的缔造者。那么之前我们看到了伏羲形象呢是人首蛇形的造型，这就是早期以蛇为主体图腾的一种表现形式。刚才我们说到了伏羲他最大的功绩就是创化八卦，而这种理论呢，在中国古代是有很多运用的，比方说。咱们中国古代它是一个农业大国，这种理论也是用在农业生产方面的。您看，在我们的头顶上方，这就有一个相当于西方星座的这样一个星宿图。中国人呢是把它分为28个星宿，伏羲就是长期 对于天体行星运行规律的一个总结，然后把它用在了生产，最多的就是农业生产方面。
Okay, I think I just about got most of that, but essentially, Fuxi, in all his wisdom, calculated the movement of the stars, and through that he estimated when would be the best times to farm the land. So basically, he sorted out agriculture. What a legend. 但是应该大部分的中国人都明白这个吧？
这也不是。其实呢，我们说到的先天八卦思想，它囊括了很多方面。比方说，它在军事上有应用，在我们的美学方面也有运用，等等很多方面。其实中国人很多也不懂太极，它太深奥了。
So it's not just me who doesn't understand the whole thing. I think I got the essentials. I hope. 谢谢。
不客气。那我们这儿呢还有一个互动平台，您可以看一下。
Fuxi is thought to have been the first mythical emperor of China. His miraculous birth as a divine being with a serpent's body is said to have occurred in the 29th century BC. Some representations show him with a leaf-wreathed head growing out of a mountain, or as a man clothed in animal skins. Fuxi is said to have discovered the famous Chinese trigrams used in divination, and thus to have contributed to the development of the Chinese writing system. Not content with that, there's a whole list of achievements ascribed to Fuxi. He domesticated animals and taught his people to cook, to fish with nets and to hunt with weapons made of iron. He likewise instituted marriage as a part of a system of etiquette. The practice became for the man to pay the families of the woman as a way of compensating them for their loss. Before Fuxi showed up, people were living in caves, so he also taught them how to build houses. All in all, that's a pretty impressive CV. The Ming Dynasty Temple was begun in 1483 to commemorate China's earliest ancestor. The temple is a typical Ming Dynasty structure that, despite renovations in the Qing Dynasty, still retains its Ming format. Located on the western part of the Fuxi Road in Tianshui City, the Temple of Fuxi is also called the Taihao Gong. The temple was completed in 1490 during the reign of Emperor Hongzhi and covers a total area of 6,000 square meters. Every year, from the 13th day of the first month by the lunar calendar, Tianshui people flock here to pay their respects to Fuxi. Not only is the place always packed with people paying their respects at this time of the year, but on the 13th, 14th and 15th, productions and spectacles are staged for the crowd. You'll find singing and dancing, and even Chinese opera. Most festivals in China take place according to the Chinese lunar calendar, in which the first day of the month is marked by the new moon, while the full moon occurs in the middle of the month. Interestingly, you'll find that many Tianshui locals actually use the lunar calendar when discussing their birthdays and so on, which can sometimes get a bit confusing. Don't say we didn't warn you. Starting in the afternoon of the 15th day, right through until the 16th, you'll find people sticking things into and burning holes in paper cutouts shaped like humans. Whereas in most parts of the world, and even in southern China, sticking things on imitation bodies has negative connotations and is generally compared to African voodoo rituals. Here, it's seen as a good thing. And you can see how popular it is, with hundreds of people literally queuing to help their loved ones in some way.
So,
这个是男的，这个是女的，是吧？
这是男的，这是女的。
是吗？So what you do here at the Fuxi Temple is you collect these things. Say you're ill, or a friend of yours is ill, or your parents in any way, and you want them to feel better. You buy one of these things, one of these sort of little figurines, paper figurines. They put them up, they glue them up, and then wherever they're ill, you pierce with one of these incense sticks, and hopefully they'll feel better. 所以这个是男女，
这是女，
啊，对对对，所以是生病的是吗？
就是。
所以如果是头疼是风头，如果是
这可以去点头。
啊，所以是我妈妈的眼睛，所以是。Okay, so mommy's eyes. Right. 好，然后是爸爸的这里，这 and daddy's knees. 谢谢谢谢，就做这个是吗？
啊，就好了。
Alright, really hope that works out okay.
All the celebrations come to a head on the night of the 15th. The temple is absolutely chock-a-block because this is when the Fuxi worshipping ceremony begins. Doesn't matter at all how cold it is or what the weather's like. But people start getting turned away as the evening progresses. The ceremony starts at 10:30 p.m. and some people have been in there since 7 o'clock. What you'll also find is devotees carrying food with them to give to Fuxi as a way of honouring their ancestor and praising his memory. A swift glance at the offerings table and you'll see that no one is being thrifty. Evidently, only the finest food is thought good enough for this revered man.
So we're lucky enough to be here on the most important social event in the Fuxi temple that starts in the afternoon of the 15th but really kicks off from midnight, so going into the 16th in the first month of the lunar calendar. This is when it's all going to kick off and hopefully you'll get to see it too.
People keep arriving at the temple of Fuxi right up until midnight. Why is that? Well, the answer is simple. Everyone wants to have the chance to be one of the first to light their incense and pray to Fuxi. This is a ritual that you can find in many other temples, most notably at the Huangdaxian Temple in Hong Kong. And if you're one of the first, it's seen as lucky, as the gods will receive your prayers first. But don't let all the hustle and bustle detract you from a great event, which is late, loud and riotous, but steeped in Chinese tradition. It's a real family event with children everywhere. Falling on the 15th day of the first month of the lunar year, the Lantern Festival takes place under a full moon and marks the end of the Chinese New Year festivities. The Lantern Festival has its origins back in the legends of the Han Dynasty over 2,000 years ago. According to Chinese tradition, when the first bright full moon of the new year was hanging in the sky, there should be thousands of colourful lanterns hung out for people to appreciate it. It's also a very important time for families when they get together to celebrate and enjoy the festive atmosphere. And who doesn't love a good fireworks display? A perfect ending to a perfect 4-day trip around Tian Shui.
So with the fireworks going off all around me, this is what it's like in Tian Shui after midnight on going into the 16th day. It's crazy. It effectively marks the end of the Chinese New Year celebration here in Tian Shui, which I think is pretty fitting because it marks the end of our show as well. I hope you've enjoyed looking around this wonderful city and everything it has to offer, and especially what Chinese New Year celebrations are really like. I'm Mark Edwards, and I'll catch you very soon on another episode of Travelogue.